Alright, so in this video, we're going to just draw the SBA. Now, the SBA is a pulley assembly. Now, if we take a look at the written work, you will see that there's a problem. So the problem, you're a junior engineer, your supervisor has asked you to assist him with completion of his pulley mechanism. So you've been provided these two parts of the pulley mechanism, a bracket and also the pulley. So there are three things that you have to do. Find a means of securing the pulley to the bracket to allow it to spin freely. Find a means of connecting the bracket to a table and ensure the uprights of the bracket are supported. So based on those three conditions and the instruction that we've been given, we're going to make an assembly drawing of these objects. So we're going to start with horizontal line, long horizontal line, and we draw a vertical line here, and I'm going to draw a vertical line over here. So these are my center lines that I started with. So I'll start with the front view, which is 180. So offset 180. Okay, so that line I drew is really big. Alright, so just check the measurement to make sure it's correct. Alright, so that 180 is good. And offset again, 10. And now I'll trim. And I'll draw the vertical line here a little closer. And this is for the end view, which is here. So I'm going to finish the end view first before you go forward. So I'll offset. I'm offsetting the 110. So half of 110 is 55. So 55 to the left, 55 to the right. Alright, since that is so small, I think I'm going to bring it just a little closer. Alright, so we offset 55, 55 to the left, 55 to the right, trim. Now this SBA is preparation for the exam, because in the exam you have to do the same thing where you'll be given parts and you have to assemble them. Alright, so now we have an offset of 80, but we're going up 50 as well. So let me go 50 first. 50. And I'll pull this 50 line right across. And I'll get to the circles. This is radius 8. And then there's radius 17. And then we should have an offset of 80. So since 80 is the full, we're going to offset 40 to the left, 40 to the right. And now we're going to make our tangent, which is a slanted line. So whenever you have a slanted line, you always draw everything else and put in the slant last. So we're pulling up here, we're looking for a tangent, line tool, look for the tangent, and now we trim. Alright, so at this point, let's trim here. And I am looking at this front view now. So because the end view is finished, I'm going to just project across my top line. This is the top of the figure. And now I'll try to put in this 80 here and the 2 10s. So the 80 is in the middle, so I can just look for the middle, the triangle. So I just come up, offset, 40, 42 left, 42 right. Now just making sure that this line is straight. Alright, so I had offset it 42 left, 42 right, which is these two lines here. Then I'll offset 10. So we're going 10 over here to your left, 10 over here to your right. And we're going to trim it now. Now, anytime you're unsure if a line is straight or not, just go back to it, click it, and just pull it across. So I'm just checking, okay, so that line is straight. So now I'm going to bring the hidden details across, which are these two lines from the hole. Because the hole is on the inside of the object, we're going to see those lines in here as hidden. Now, it's very important that you practice this drawing, and you practice drawing so that you can complete it with speed. You don't want to do it quick but incorrect, but there is an element of speed that must be practiced. And the only way that you get better at drawing and fast at drawing is by practicing. Alright, so we have here those hidden detail lines. I'll change the layers of these to the correct thing, which these correct layers here are outlines. And I'll delete that. Now I'll also change this to a center line. It's important to make sure you have the correct centers. So what I'll do here too, I'm going to draw the plan view of this one time. So it's already set to 45. Change this, use construction. Just drop a 45 here. Bring it down. Bring it across. And then I'll bring these lines down. Alright, so the body of this figure is finished. And now I'm just going to bring down the two uprights. So when I draw the line across, I'm going to stop here because I still want to see the projection line. So I bring down the 45, I stop by the edge, then I bring it across, I'll bring down the middle line, then I'll bring the middle line across, then I'll bring down the hole, and just bring it across here. Same thing goes with up here. So I'm bringing the lines down and across. So if we take a look at the lines that were just drawn, this is the upright. The start of the upright is over here to the left. So this is the start of it. So we should not have any lines above there. So that's going to be a space. That's like that. Same thing goes for the right side. The upright stops at this point. So when I bring this line down and bring it across, it's gonna look like this. And the last thing, which are the two hidden detail holes that we already have brought down, brought across. Alright, so this is the first part that is finished. Now, just making sure that the line is horizontal. I'm changing the layers here to hidden. these are outlines. Change center to center. Alright, so just gonna clean up this edge. Now, with what we have here, I have drawn 3 views of the pulley, of the bracket, sorry. So I have the front of the bracket, I have the end of the bracket, and I have the plan view of the bracket. So the first thing I'll do with this bracket, remember for one of the conditions we have, we need something to support the uprights of the bracket. So I'm just going to put something called a web in here, which is a little triangle. So I'll offset this at maybe 15, between 15 and 20. So I'll do it at 17. Offset up, offset across. So what I'm doing is just inserting this little triangular piece. And what this triangular piece is going to do, it is going to support the upright of the figure here. Now I can do it a lot bigger, but I've just done it in this small way, which is the web. So what is very important for you is you need to make sure if you do it in one view, you make sure you carry it across and do it in the second view. So the thickness of this web is short, so I'm going to make it a little thick. So I'll offset, and I think I'll offset it 8 to the left, 8 to the right. And I'll just draw it in. Now I just made a double line here by putting this purple line over the center. Now I make sure to delete, because if you do make double lines, they stay in the drawing. So you do not always want to have double lines. Now remember the measurement of my web, I just put it between 15 and 20. So you can put it at whatever height or length you want it to be. Just make sure it does not butt any of the objects. But if you wanted to put it a little higher, you could by offsetting. So funny enough, I think this web is the same size as the hole. So these things line up. So all I need to do here is project down the line from my web and fill in the web from over here. And I'll fill in the web from this side. Because it's the same size as the hole, I can use the hole to make it. So this is the plan view of my web, and I also have the front view of my web. Okay, so the web is finished. Now it asks us about connecting this to a table or securing it to a table with any conditions. So something we can do, we can put some holes in the edge. So I'll just offset maybe 16 coming in to make the centers of these holes. Now you can decide whichever measurement you want to use. Now the size of these holes, let me see how 8 looks. It looks a little big, so I'll make it smaller than 8. So I'm going to use, that was 8, I'm going to use 6. And 6 is not bad, so I'll copy it. So I right click, press copy, and just move it down across. So just make sure it's in the center. Now I'm going to draw a bigger circle here because I want to trim these lines. Now whenever you do a circle, you need to have your center lines in properly. So your line work is very important. So I'm just going to trim this. Trim here. Trim here. And trim here. So now, just delete the two of these. And I'll kind of extend this up and across. Because all I'm doing here is I'm making the center line. So I'm extending it out. So you always make sure that the center line extends a little ways out of the figure. And whenever you have a circle, you make sure you have a center line, horizontal and a vertical center line. Alright, so I have drawn them. Let me put in the center lines now. Now what could have been done, I could have just drawn one and just copied it. Make sure the layer of it was correct and everything, but alright, so this is what we've done. So we have in that hole. Now I need to draw that hole in the front view. So I'll project up the center line. Then I'll project across the center line. Because remember is we have to project across and we have to project up. So now I project up this center line. So here's where the center is. We follow the line. Where it hits the 45, we project it up. Alright, so that's my center. Now I need to project the circle, the holes that are inside. So these holes, remember I drew the circle first. So whenever you have a part like this, you draw your circle and then you project up. And so I have projected those two up, and because the holes are the same size, I can now just copy this across. So I'll just trim this space. Now I can draw up each of them, but I'm doing it a bit fast. So I highlight this, I go to hidden, and I highlight each of them, copy. So remember these holes are the same size. So I copy it over here to the left, I copy it over here in the end view, and I copy it over here. So remember I placed it at the bottom of the center. So let's check to see if it lines up with the actual circle. So I draw the line down, I draw the line across, and it lines up perfectly. It lines up perfectly. Alright, so I have put that hole in. I'm just going to fix the line now. You don't lose marks for this really, but it makes the drawing look a lot more tidy. Alright, so I have the bracket. So this bracket is finished fully. Now, there are several drawings that we have to do for the assembly, for the SBA. One is an orthographic, which is what I have started here, and the second is an exploded. So an exploded drawing shows two views of every part. So I'm going to copy this bracket, and I'll just put it over here for the exploded. So if you remember, the exploded just needs two views. So I don't need the plan view that I did before. I also don't really need these lines going down. So for my exploded, which is going to be here, I'm going to put the name of this. This is the bracket. And the bracket is one off. So what one off means, it means that there's only one bracket. So I change it to text. Over here now. Alright, so we're ready to put in the second main part, which is the pulley. Now I could draw the pulley separately, but I know already where the pulley is going to go. The pulley is going into this space. And if we look at this figure, this space here has 80, but the length of this pulley is 75. So 75 from 80 gives us 5. So I want a space of 5 here. So when I divide 5 by 2, 2.5, that gives me the space. So I'm going to offset 2.5. Move it here, move it here. So this is where the pulley is going to go. And what I would do is the pulley has 325s. So let me check the measurement first to see if it's correct. And that's 75 perfect. So I'll just offset 25, 25, 25, and the last 25 lines up perfectly. So now, as I said, instead of drawing it separately, I'll draw the pulley in place over here. Now what I will do though is, well, I would usually draw it with a different layer to show that's a different part, but I'll still draw it with the outline. Now it's very important to make sure the centers are correct. And something that you can do, turn this line back to a construction line so that you know exactly where the center is. And we check here. So you see the center is correct. See that center is correct. So we come here now, we're drawing the pulley. So the pulley has a small circle at radius 15. Radius 15, so that is inside, I'll put that as hidden. Then we have here a radius 20, make sure that the center is correct. Then we have a radius 30. We also have a radius 40. Now, because the pulley is positioned inside of the bracket, this wall is going to block it. So first though, before I draw the piece that is blocked, I'm just going to project the pulley across to the front view so that I can complete the pulley in its position. So I have the first piece here in, I'll extend it up. Then I trim. So this is the largest rectangle in the pulley. And I am going to project now the next line, next circle across. So that circle comes across, so you make sure it's straight. And I also project the bottom across, make sure it's straight. So then we extend the top up, trim. And now I'll extend the second smallest circle across here. And I'll extend the bottom of it. So you make sure you go step by step to make sure the points are correct. So we extend. So here is my pulley in place now. And once again, we just clean it up. So we have our pulley, and we have here the front view of the pulley, which is this, and the end view. But remember, we're missing this hidden detail circle. So I'm going to project this hidden across, because the pulley has a circle here at radius 15. So this is the radius 15 here. Project it across, and then project it across. Make sure the lines are straight. So now we trim. Alright, so just delete this line. Alright, so that pulley is finished. Well, the front view of the pulley is finished completely. I'll just change to the center. Now the problem here is, as we said before, the bottom of the pulley is blocked by this upright. So just take a look at it. These uprights are standing up here. So when we turn the figure, we can see the side of the upright here. But because the pulley is being placed inside of the bracket, this is going to block it. So these curves at the bottom here are actually going to be a hidden detail. So it's a very simple way how we can make half of them hidden detail. We highlight the slants, we highlight the top, we copy it over here, and then what we do, we're going to trim these top pieces, leave those curves, and then we're going to trim these pieces here now. So remove the inside piece, remove the upper, we highlight, we change this to hidden. Now when you copy, always move from the center. So when you hover over the edge, the center appears. So you come over here, put it in the center. Alright, so that is correct. Now what I need to do here, remember I drew the bracket over here. I need to draw the pulley over here now. So in this way, we're doing the two views at the same time. Now you may not want it to be that far away, so just make it a little closer, and I'll just trim off some of the lengths of the center lines that are there. And I'll also change these lines back to solid, because now there's nothing that is blocking them. I think I did copy an extra line, which was a small circle. Alright, so let's just check to make sure they line up. So that lines up perfectly. This piece lines up perfectly. So it is critical you make sure they line up. So you come here by bracket, copy, and we're going to call it pulley 1 off. So we have our pulley. Now, how are we connecting the pulley to the upright or the bracket? So here's the bracket, there's space here between it. What are we going to do? Now, a simple thing that we can do is we can draw a bolt nut washer, like assembly. We can use those to assemble the parts. So what I'm going to do is I'll start the bolt over here. Now to draw a bolt, you draw a circle, and you should draw your circle at a particular measurement. And then we're going to draw a hexagon in it. So the thing about the hexagon is polygon, left click, number of sides, 6, enter, specify the center, then it tells us to inscribe or circumscribe. So the circle that we make, we want our polygon to be circumscribed. Now if it is circumscribed, it looks like this, because whenever bolts are drawn, you will see this circle touching the top of them. Now this bolt here is too big, but that was just to explain it. Now the shaft of the bolt is this size. So this is going to be the shaft running through here, and the bolt head is going to be around this area. So we don't want the circle for it to be too big or too small. So I'm just going to come here, and so with this, let's try to determine the instruction. And so the circle here, let me put it at 13. Alright, so 13 is okay. Well, actually, let me try 12. No, you can adjust yours to suit. Okay, so I draw at 12, polygon, number of sides, 6, enter, specify center, circumscribe, and you make sure you touch the edge. So here is the bolt, that is the head of the bolt, that's finished. And now, because the bolt is going to cover this hole becomes hidden. So this is the shaft of the bolt, this is the head of the bolt. Now I'm going to make threads on this shaft. Bolts will usually have threads, so let's take a look at one quickly. Bolt bolt and nut. So here's an example of it. You will see here that the bolt has a head here, and then the shaft of it is a lot smaller. So when we draw it, we don't draw all of these low ridges, but I have the head of the bolt pretty big. I've drawn the shaft. So I'm going to show you how we draw threads. So threads are pretty simple. We're just going to offset the circle, and I'm going to offset by 1. So those are the threads for my bolt. And at this point, I'm going to draw the head of the bolt across. So I draw it long, making sure that I'm using the points from the polygon, drawing them across long. So this is my bolt now. Now, usually when you are using a bolt, you will use a washer. So even when we look at this diagram shows us a bolt with a washer, and the thing is the washer acts as a spacer. So that is why it's important for us to use the washer with the hexagonal bolt that we have. So since the washer sits on the bolt, I'm going to put the washer here probably at the same 30 from the inner hole that we had. So I'll just change this line here to solid to show that this is the washer that we're using. So this is the outer part of the washer, this is the inner part. And I'll project the washer across. Top of the washer, project it longer so I can see a difference. And I project the bottom of the washer across. Now if you are confused, remember here. Remember the bigger part is the washer, and we need spacers between the pulley and the bracket. So we have just drawn our washer here, and I'll clean it up. So the washer is the biggest line. So I'm just going to trim it. Trim off the washer. So here's the washer in this space. So that is the washer there. And I will also put the washer over here. So you have to make sure you do not delete the wrong line. I think I trimmed the wrong line earlier. So the washer is actually supposed to connect with this piece. So it's just this little line that will be here for the washer. And I'll trim these pieces here. And this is because remember the washer is this circle. So I'm just making sure it lines up. Alright, so let's go back and take a look to see where exactly the washers are. So this circle here is our washer. So I hit the top of it, the washer comes across, it hits here. We have it inside, we have one in here, and it comes out a little further. Let me check the bottom of the washer. The washer comes across, hits the side, just making sure that these line up. and then the washer comes outside a little more. So there's a reason that I am projecting it outside again, and that is because, a very simple reason, we're going to put 4 washers in this object. One is in here. Let me just hatch them. So this is our first washer. Here's our second washer. And we're going to put washers on the outside on both sides. So remember, the measurement for this is 2.5. So I'm going to offset 2.5. Come over here, offset 2.5. So I have my washer in place. Alright, so I have the 4 washers. Just going to fix the outline of them. Now the reason that I did the washers before the bolt is because we are going to see, we have to put the washer in first before we put on the bolt, unless we would have a measurement that is incorrect. So let me explain. The washer comes here and then the bolt comes on the outside. So what I'm going to do is I'll project across the bolt again so that we can make the bolts here. But in the meantime, I'm going to put the washers in the plan view first. So this is very simple, just highlighting each of them.
And look at that cross section. Yeah, you can see how there's so much cabbage just folded into that batter and that egg. All the sauce just kind of melts into the entire structure.
It's changing layers, so I don't have to change them later.
All of the proteins are nestled within, and all that sauce.
So I'm carrying the top of the washer.
Sauce has just completely kind of melted and caramelized, and you can see how sticky it is on the top. First bite, the legendary.
Now, down here needs a pulley as well, so I will highlight the pulley. Now, because the pulley is circular, it's a circular or cylindrical object, it's going to look the same in both views. So I just copy it from here to the center, and put it down in place. So, and if you see, it lines up the same way perfectly. So I now have in pulley, washers, yes. So ready to do the bolt. So we go to the head of the bolt, change to construction, project across top, project across the bottom. Now, this is going to be the head of the bolt here. I'm going to offset it, probably 6. You don't want it too high, you don't want it too short. I offset it 6. 6 is looking a little short. So what I'm going to do is I'll add on a 1 to the left. And I'll show you now when I try to trim it up. Just trimming the line so that we can see it clearly. Alright, so there's our bolt. Just deleting some of the purple lines. Those projection lines that we were using. Because those lines can confuse us. Alright, so we have the head of the bolt here. Now what we need to do is this line, I'm going to delete it, and then I'll redraw it. But when I redraw it, I'm going to put in each section separately. So 1, 2, 3. Circle, 3-point circle, top, bottom, center, 3-point circle again, top, bottom, and center. press escape, 3-point circle, top, bottom. So the reason I redrew those lines is so that I would have 3 lines over here that all show the center. If it was only one line, it would not show the center of it. So now this is finished. And I'm going to trim this piece. So the head of the bowl is done. Now I can copy this and flip it on the next side, but I won't. I'm just going to do it again. So remember, this measurement here is 1, then the full length is 7. So we come here again, offset, 7, offset 1. So remember, the 1 is on the inside of the 7. And once again, I project the points. Top of the bolt goes here, goes down. Second line, second corner, third point, fourth point. Alright, so all I need to do now is trim it. And delete the outer line. And then we just redraw it. So we draw each piece by itself. 3-point circle, top, bottom, right. Top, bottom, right. And now we trim.
Osaka really is a Japanese food paradise. And all the places we went to some historical restaurants, some legendary
And then
places,
we
also
just
some
delete
places just with some
the
really
rest
good
of
food.
these, left
I
click
think
them,
this gives you
press delete on the
a
keyboard,
glimpse of what to eat when you're in Osaka.
change the
But again,
layers.
just scratching the surface.
So I'm trying to change the layers one time so that I have them in place. Alright, so I have my bowl, I have the front view of the head of the bowl actually. I have some of the shaft here. Now truthfully, the shaft of the bowl is this line, because what we're doing is we're fitting the bowl in here. So this radius A is the shaft of the bowl. So I just project it across, and I'll project that bowl outwards a little bit. So just for clarity, the bolt comes all the way from the left, comes across here, and then it comes through the nut. We have bolt, washer, 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 and here's our nut. So the bolt is going to end somewhere over here. So I'll offset this about maybe 5, and I'll put my bolt over here. So this is the outer piece of my bolt, and how we draw the end of the bolt, or the bottom of it, we offset this 1, so we have a line coming here, extend it to the edges, and then I do the same 3-point curve, top, bottom, right. So this is now the finished piece that is sticking out. Now the only problem is these pieces should not be hidden, because I can see the piece of this bolt here sticking out or projecting. So I get my line tool, project it across. Now if we remember, the bolts have threads. So the threads are over here, the center line, second small circle that I drew. So I'm going to project that small circle across where it hits the vertical, and then draw it here. You have to make sure your line is straight. Then come to the top of it, inner line. So I'm looking for the green line again. There it is. And now I can trim. And there is my bowl. So funny enough, I have my bowl, my washers, and my nut in place. So I can copy the bowl down to the bottom, but the funny thing about a hexagon is that in one view you will see 3 bumps. Like this view here, you can see 3 bumps, but in the other view you're gonna see 2. So I need to project my bowl down now. So the same principle. Here's my bowl. I come the left side of it, project it down to the 45. Where it hits the 45, I project it across. So I have the center already. So if you realize the bottom of it only has 2 spaces or 2 bumps. So I am going to project these 2 down and then project them across. Now I'm going to get the measurements from here. Here's the left of it. And here's the inner circle, or inner curve. And from here, I have the center of the bowl, I have the top line, these 3 important lines. So I'll trim. And I'll prepare here now to draw the bumps. So I'm going to put the center line in place. Once again, we need to delete this line. Come with our layer. Draw 1, draw 2, and we're doing our 3-point circle. Bottom, up, from the center. So remember, the only way the center appears is if I draw that line individually. Because this is now a separate line. And that is the reason why the center far appears. So just trim off the edges. Okay, so that bow over here is finished. And then we need to put our next bow over here. So we're doing the same thing, projecting down, the bottom, project down here, so same thing, center comes across, and we're going to trim. So we delete the right line, we draw it back in individually, 1, 2, 3-point circle, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and we trim. Alright, so now the only problem that we have here is that when we put the bowl in, you should realize that the bowl goes over a couple parts. So let's look at it from the top. If I had to look down at this figure, what I will see is that I'm going to see the bowl first. And because the bowl is located in the center, the bowl is now over the actual web. So I need to trim the web. And then change it to hitting the tail lines. So where that little line is, just trimming it. because what has happened is the bolt is in a position over the web, so the web now becomes hidden detail. Alright, so that is it for those parts. So we now have the bolt, we have the washers. We have the bolt over here, we have the washers over here as well. So let's go back to the exploded now. So remember we did the pulley, we did the bracket first. So here, I'm gonna copy the bolt. Here's the front of the bolt. Remember this is the body of the bolt. Center line of the bolt. Bolt comes all the way over here. So I highlight this. Highlight the line where those threads ends. And then I copy the end view of the bolt as well and the center. So we put it over here. And we have more than one bolt in this drawing, so I'm gonna call this my main bolt, and that's one off. Change the text, change the layers here. And I'll just draw the threads. Extend. Let me just make sure this line is straight. Okay, it is straight. And I'm going to trim off this piece of the threads. So there's the front of the bolt. And we have here the end view of the bolt. Now once again, I don't like how far away the end view is. So I'll just trim it. And I also don't like how big the center lines are. And just trim it to make it a lot smaller so that it can fit on the page. And I'll move it around. Alright, so there's my front and end view of the bolt. Now remember we have 4 washers. Now for this we only need 1. So we need the center of the washer, we need the hidden detail, and we need the end view of the washer here, and that bigger circle. Copy the washer. So I'm going to put the washer just about here. And now that I have put the washer across, just bringing it a little across, a little closer. And that's still a bit far away. So I'll just probably cut it here. So I'm just highlighting the circle, make sure that my center is correct. But I may put back in my center line. And now I just need to trim this. So here's my washer. I can also left click, copy. So I'll call this main washer. And there are 4 of these washers. So if we take a look, 1, 2, 3, 4. And we have a nut. So here's the nut. Front view of the nut. Copy the hidden detail as well, because remember the nut has in 2 holes. Copy the center line. So now Just gonna put in my nut somewhere around here so it's a little closer.
Oh, that's large Phillies. And I think we're gonna choose a table out here on the with a view of the ocean. Oh, first view of the ocean today. We're just going straight through the ocean.
And when I copied it, some of the lines were not highlighted, so I'm just gonna clean it up. Now the important thing here is that the parts that you are making are drawing in the exploded. They must be the same parts or the same measurements that you have in your front end and plan. You can't have different measurements all of a sudden. So let me just check to make sure that this lines up. That lines up perfectly. Make sure the edge lines up. That lines up perfectly. And make sure that these holes line up. So that's one hole. Perfect. And the second hole here, which is covered by the corner. Alright, so for the nut now, when we look at a nut, the inner hole of the nut is going to be solid. And then we have to put what is called a braid on the outer hole. Because since nuts have threads, the thread is not going to go all the way around. So I have my solid inner hole, and then I have my broken outer hole. So I'll copy the nut over here. This is our main nut now. And we only have one main nut. So we have our main bolt, main washer, main nut. Now the same thing that goes for the threads on the nut here, they go on the bolt. But the difference is, when we look at the bolt, the outer line is what would be solid, and the inner line is what would be broken. So I need to just draw a few things in it and put a nice break on the inner circle. So that's my bolt. And at this point, I'm going to stop the video for now. But we have started our exploded, we have started our orthographic.